we intend to look at a whole gamut of issues surrounding carnivals in Nigeria. Now, what is the guiding philosophy? What are the cultural messages embedded in some of these carnivals as you've seen them from the north, south, east, and west? Now, how can the many concerns being raised by individuals and even the general public be addressed? And to what extent can the economic potentials be fully exploited?
Very pertinent questions you raised there, Blessing. And it's on that note that we'd like to welcome you to this edition of Good Morning Nigeria. As always, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're Africa's largest television network. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
My name is Blessing Abu. Welcome to the program. Now, today's lineup will also bring your way our companion segments, which include the newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, as well as entertainment news. But first, let's take the news highlights with Stella Inamiti. Good morning to you, Stella. I know you're from that part of the country where the carnival is at its best.
Again.
Okay.
You can say that again.
Okay, I'm sure you had fun the last one.
Very good fun.
Okay.
Hello, Kingsley, and Blessing. Here is the news. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, presided over the National Executive Council meeting to discuss issues of national interest. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports that the new minimum wage featured prominently during the meeting, which also focused agriculture and education.
Out of school children. NEC suggested, and it was agreed, that each state should interrogate the data provided by the minister and make a presentation to NEC, giving a common template, because sometimes there are template issues. So the way the data is reported might be different if a common template is not agreed.
President Muhammadu Buhari says the governing APC is committed to sustaining the implementation of its robust programs of action towards the development of the Niger Delta for enhanced standards of living of the people. This, is said, is to appreciate the significant contributions of the region to the nation's economic well-being. The president was speaking in Warri during the APC presidential campaign rally in the state, popularly referred to as the Big Heart of the nation.
I assure you, under this leadership, our interest is to serve Nigeria. We will not abuse trust. I assure you, the programs mentioned here about development of the Niger Delta will be taken even more seriously. I expect you to please cooperate and vote APC from top to bottom.
Similarly, President Muhammadu Buhari says his interest in seeking re-election is to secure Nigeria and build a united nation that everyone can be proud of. The president at the APC presidential rally held in Edo State assured the people of more developmental projects if re-elected.
We are doing our best. We are just following the slow system where we have to face people with facts and try and take them before the courts and get them successfully prosecuted. And what we realize, I assure you, sooner than later, I will get the EFCC and ICPC to give a comprehensive press conference to tell Nigerians how much we have recovered and where it is and what we intend to do with it.
In the meantime, lecturers in universities with questionable character will not be used as returning or collation officers for the 2019 general elections. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu stated this during a meeting with the vice-chancellors of Nigerian universities.
Those who are known to be involved in partisan politics or in any way associated with partisan politics will not be involved in election duty. We need neutral people so that we further protect the integrity of the process.
We have to exhibit complete neutrality. Integrity is the watchword, and the world is watching us. So we can't expect any less from any vice chancellor.
On the second day of its resumption, the Senate passed a motion urging the federal government to immortalize the late former president of Nigeria, Shehu Shagari, by naming a national monument after him.
A high-powered delegation of this hallowed chamber to condole with the family of the deceased.
Everybody respected President Shehu Shagari. If anything happened later, in 1984, it was definitely not because of the president. We lost an honest, sincere leader.
In a related development, Speaker, House of Representatives Yakubu Dogara says the 2019 appropriation bill is a major assignment before the National Assembly, urging that work on it be accelerated in order not to impede business of government. The Speaker stated this at Thursday's plenary.
In view of the fact that members have not received copies of the appropriation bill, it is my suggestion that we will not take the debate on the second reading on the appropriation bill until members have copies.
Nigeria's Foreign Affairs Minister, Geoffrey Onyeama, has assured the government and people of South Sudan that Nigeria will continue to work towards ensuring its stability and economic prosperity. Foreign Desk correspondent Makut Simon Macham reports that the minister stated this while signing a general cooperation agreement with his counterpart from South Sudan, Niall Deng, at the Foreign Affairs Ministry.
Have suffered enormously, and it really is time to silence the guns and really focus on development.
And so we are very happy to know that we still can count on you to make a contribution to provide the necessary assistance such that we get there.
And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Blessing and Kingsley after this break.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem promptly through revival of agriculture.
The 30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
What's up?
His friends didn't come.
Hey, let's practice.
But you're going out.
Don't worry about me.
Nothing satisfies a mother more than seeing a child grow up. But I know as he sweats, he'll face the risk of germs which can cause skin irritation.
That's why you need the new best ever Dettol Cool. Its new advanced formulation with extra menthol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs and gives your family icy cool freshness.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
My name is Chinazo Gochku. I'm from Imo State. I have been doing business in this area since past 7 years without any help. When I had this government something that's helping people, I go to them. They give me money. I have got 50,000 from them, and I pay back. I pray to God, let government give to other people so that the money we spend to everybody. As I myself, I'm very happy, and my family. I pray God to give to another people so that they will enjoy this money with me and enjoy this government with me.
Sore throat, it's often caused by bacteria and viruses. Feels like you're having a party. You need Strepsils. It soothes the pain, plus it fights the germs with 2 germ-killing actives. Double power in 1 lozenge. Bye-bye sore throat. Take Strepsils.
When I was a little girl, I loved spending time with Mum and Grandma cleaning the house. I was so excited to sing in the choir. And your shirts are always so white. I knew what Mum's secret was. Today, I'm a modern woman that still trusts the secrets passed down to me. It's Jik, of course. The original trusted bleach, which can be used all around your house for amazing results. Shh, it's our little secret. It's no secret. It's Jik's best ever extra whitening power. Just Jik it.
Getting around heartburn and indigestion can be tricky if you eat too much. Eat food that is too spicy or greasy, or lie down after eating. Heartburn and indigestion could always be around the corner. When they come, be prepared with Gaviscon Double Action. It works within 3 minutes and lasts up to 8 hours. Gaviscon Double Action. Many causes, one solution.
The Nigerian broadcast sector is evolving. Operators like cameramen require new skills and techniques to churn out world-class productions. A unique opportunity is open to all. NTA TV College Jos is organizing a 4 weeks intensive short course in camera operation technique aimed at enhancing the professional skills of cameramen, practicing and freshers. Date 4th February to 1st March 2019. Venue NTA TV College, Rayfield, Jos. Fee 100,000 naira per participant. Accommodation inclusive. For more inquiries, please contact 0803 314 4383 or 0806 980 9807. TV College Jos, training you to be the best you want to be.
Welcome back. If you just tuned in, the program is Good Morning Nigeria. Time now to take a look at what the business report is saying. Now, federal government assures that the $1.1 billion green loan will complement the federal government's diversification agenda. Let's find out more details with Kunle Adeyeye.
The Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, disclosed that the loan facility will create jobs, food sufficiency in all the council areas nationwide, and will eventually transform the economic landscape of the country. Special Assistant to the Minister on Media, Paul Ella Abechi, said the present government will continue with the diversification drive, which she insists is already yielding results, and commended Vice President Yemi Osinbajo's effort towards securing the loan from Brazil following a meeting with a team of Brazilian experts. The greater chunk of the loan, which will be technology-driven, will come in kind through supply of agricultural machinery and implements in form of completely knocked-down parts. In another development, as Nigeria counts down to the general elections, the Office of the Accountant General is telling those responsible for issuing information on the nation's public finance system to be factual so as to avoid misleading and overheating the polity. Accountant General of the Federation, Ahmed Idris, through the Director of Funds, says the Treasury is committed to ensuring only factual facts and figures are given out through the conventional and social media.
And not only during the year of elections, but at all times. But it becomes more important in a year of elections. Because, as you know, politicians will always want to take advantage of any story that may be disadvantageous. Therefore, it is much more important at this time around to be sure of what you are reporting.
The gathering is for information staff in public finance management to equip themselves with the necessary tools ahead of the elections. And next is the graphic representation of Thursday's tradings on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Business News. I'm Kunle Adeyeye.
Thank you very much, Kunle, for the business package on Good Morning Nigeria. Next for us, we'll take a look at some stories in today's newspapers.
I'd like to welcome Bayo Atoyebe to the studio. It's ready for today's review. Good morning to you, Bayo.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Yeah, Bayo, good to see you. Let's take the Daily Trust newspaper. Daily Trust newspaper, the front page is busy. Atiku arrives Washington, meets U.S. officials today. Details on page 5. INEC clears 72 for presidential contest. That's on page 13. Now, the lead story is on the Daily Trust Dialogue. That's the 16th in the series. Baba Ahmed and Dalong clash over Buhari. Right at the foot of the front page. Council of State to discuss minimum wage Tuesday, page 3. Also on page 3, why Onoge must step down. That's according to Erufai, Governor of Kaduna State. And Buhari commissions 6 billion naira Baro River Port tomorrow, page 17.
Okay, let's flip to some stories on the inside page. For the Punch now, we have on page 3 some stories there. I'll start off with the one just at the top of the page. 30,000 minimum wage. Governors demand review of revenue sharing formula. That's story there just at the front or at the top page of Punch. Page 3. Okay, let's move to the left-hand corner. Federal government making effort to address lecturers' demands. This is coming from the minister. Details of that you find still on the third page of the Punch newspaper. Ekiti Assembly removes Deputy Speaker, passes 2019 budget. That's another story you find there. And to the top right corner on page 3, reps eulogize Shagari. That's the late Shagari. That's reps eulogize Shagari. That's coming from Lagos lawmaker. Just below that story, you find Imo APC suspends Okorocha. Bye.
Well, let's start with the meeting of the National Economic Council presided over by Vice President Professor Yemi Oshibajo yesterday to discuss national minimum wage. In all, 12 governors were in attendance. Those who could not attend were represented by their deputy governors. But the decision of the National Economic Council is to push the argument forward to the National Council of State. The Nigeria's Governors Forum is demanding a rejig of the existing revenue allocation formula to enable them pay the 30,000 minimum wage. This was tabled at the National Economic Council meeting, which request will be tabled for the National Council of State meeting that is fixed for next Tuesday, the 23rd of January. The National Council of State is chaired by the President and has members and has former presidents and former heads of states and heads of government as members. Other members are former Chief Justices of the Federation, former Senate President, former Speakers of House of Representatives. This was a sequel to the amendment to the composition of the council. Also, as members are state governors and the Attorney General of the Federation. The Federation, the last time the National Council of State met was in February of 2018. Meanwhile, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, accompanied by the Director General, Dr. Bukola Saraki, arrived Washington yesterday. He held meetings with Congressman Chris Smith and on Thursday, and is expected to speak at a forum by American Chamber of Commerce. Elijah Atiku Abubakar last visited the United States in 2007 when he was Vice President of Nigeria. Does that put pay to the speculation about the fact that he cannot visit the United States because he had an overhang of a criminal charge? Some say yes, others say no. Those who say no, that says his political opponents say no because the day he visits the U.S., not as a candidate in an election, he will be forced to face a charge, what is called a shielded indictment. I don't know whether being a candidate expulcates somebody from a criminal prosecution. Now, the sad note, a Ghanaian journalist who exposed the bribe taken by Ghanaian football officials, has been shot and killed. Ahmed Hussein Swale was shot 2 minutes after leaving his home, twice in the chest and once in the neck. He lives in the Medina suburb of Accra. His brother confirmed his death after he left the house. He had belonged to the Tiger Eye private investigation. A Ghanaian parliamentarian is alleged to have blown his cover by revealing his identity and saying he had brought shame to Ghana. Sadly, instead of blaming those who were taking the bribe, the parliamentarian was blaming the journalist. And occasionally, because he blew his cover, he became a victim of the murderers.
Yeah, it's a pretty sad one. Yeah, it's one of the hazards that journalists face, and I'm sure this is perhaps the earliest recorded death of journalists in 2019. The International Press Institute has already reacted to the assassination of the journalists. May his soul rest in peace. But much more importantly, the perpetrators should be tracked down by the Ghanaian authorities and then bring such perpetrators to justice. Yes, and I'm sure. Blessing, you have other stories?
No, I think...
Well, there are other stories. You find them inside the paper. That's a Daily Trust. Of course, we're in the Lassa fever season, the dry season, Bayo. There's a report of a soldier who just died of Lassa fever at Rukuba Barracks in Jos Plateau State. That story is to be found on page 4 of Daily Trust newspaper. And it's another story. This time on page 7, it says, don't buy Abuja Carnival train tickets online. That's according to Nigerian Railway Corporation. It says that the corporation is not selling its tickets online and that any online outlet is fraudulent and it's not from the corporation. So Abuja Carnival train tickets not online. Nigerian Railways, in that respect, is still analog.
Let's talk about
I'm trying to be wary for
the list of presidential candidates. INEC has released the final list of presidential candidates for the February 16 election. The list was signed by the Secretary of the INEC, Rose Oriara Anthony. It shows 144 presidential and vice presidential candidates. For the SDP, the list indicated court order, party yet to submit name of candidates. And so if you add the two candidates, president and vice president, that will come from SDP, you have to have 76 candidates. That means there will be 38 presidential candidates. You recall that the coalition of united political parties had claimed that they had first 31 political parties and later on 9 that were joining them to support one candidate. Also, the All Progressive Congress also indicated they had about 40 political parties that were endorsing their candidate. If you add the figure, it doesn't tally because we are supposed to have 91 registered political parties. Okay. Very curious about that. But on the federal level, federal legislative level, 1,904 candidates are to contest for senatorial seats, and there are 109 senatorial seats. On the average, it means you will have 17.4 or 18 contestant for each senatorial seat. With the House of Reps, there are 4,680 to contest the 360 seats. On the average, 13 for each. And there is some positive news there. 26 female contestants among the presidential candidates. Blessed, I didn't see you smile for the affirmative action.
No, well, we've always thought it's there, but it's when you get to the polls, you see something different. So that even a candidate will just be the sole voter for herself. Yes. It shouldn't be this time.
Yes.
I think we need to return to the number of presidential candidates.
Yes.
There are actually 72 presidential candidates. With their running mates, that will bring the number to 144. Okay. So there are 72 political parties that INEC has their candidates for the elections taking place in 4 weeks' time. Now, the only one that is outstanding is that of SDP on account of the litigation over that. So if the litigation is resolved, before the time delimited for the submission of candidates' names, then it could be 73 presidential candidates. I haven't seen I'm sure INEC has displayed that. It's going to be a nightmare for voters.
Yes.
The size of the ballot box. And I don't know how big the spaces will be for thumbprinting, so that you don't have a higher incidence of void ballots. Void ballots, on account of the fact that your thumbprint is in between two boxes or two spaces.
Well, I'm sure those are considerations to be looked into by INEC. Okay, another story, Kingsley?
Yes, two other political stories.
Okay.
A faction of the All Progressive Congress in Imo State announced that they have suspended Governor Rochas Okorocha for alleged gross anti-party activities. The chairman of the Imo Caretaker Committee, led by Prince Marcelinius Nlemigbo, says that the activities include sponsoring of a rival political party as a governorship candidate. The other political story is Governor Willie Obiano of Anambra has visited the construction site of the second Niger Bridge, Asaba-Onitsha. The project director told him that 15% of the payment, which is 30 billion, has already been paid. Right now, work is on the foundation level, which has 50 meters deep, while there will be a piling of about 15 meters. And this is to be 50 meters above level so that ships can pass underneath the bridge. You will recall that there has been efforts to dredge the Niger to allow ships to drive all the way from the coast as far back as far inland as Lokoja. The bridge will be 1.6 kilometers long with 3.3 kilometers access road from Asaba end, while it will have 3.3 kilometers and 7 kilometers from the Anambra end. Governor Obiano was said to have been happy about the extent of work, and he said, "I have no choice than to praise the president for the determination on the bridge. It is expected to be completed February 2022.
All right. Now, Bayo, let's get to the editorial. Tulapia is not yet Uhuru for the people of Democratic Republic of Congo. The elections took place 30th December 2018, and they're still on it.
Yes, the two terms of the incumbent, Joseph Kabila, actually ended in 2017. But because of crisis, yes,
constitutional.
Yes, but they couldn't have the election. But eventually they did on 30th of December. But the problem now is that the winner, Felix Tshisekedi, he belongs to the Union of Democracy and Social Progress, USDP. He won.
UDPS.
Yes, he won about 38% votes. But there have been cry by religious organizations, other political parties, and other foreign institutions from the United Kingdom and others that the elections was flouted with a lot of questionable transactions. However, the situation now and the fear is that there is a deal between the incumbent, Kabila, and the newly elected. And history sometimes is very stubborn, will repeat itself. You recall, incidentally, it was Joseph Kasavubu who also had the same similar situation in the 60s, for which Patrice Lumumba was killed in February 1961. So they are warning that Democratic Republic of Congo should not go the old path. And they are prevailing on the African Union and the United Nations to ensure that peace prevails in the Congo.
All right, Bayo, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Enjoy your weekend.
Look forward to it.
See you on Monday. Okay, it's Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll get into the topic of discussion this morning.
Speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
Under no conditions whatsoever should we tolerate or excuse or justify hate speech or hateful conduct of any kind, especially where such is illegal.
There's no doubt that the resurgent push for separatism, as well as the rising cases of ethnic and religious disharmony, are all traceable to the growing phenomenon of hate speech.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Sore throat, it's often caused by bacteria and viruses. Feels like you're having a party. You need Strepsils. It soothes the pain, plus it fights the germs with 2 germ-killing actives. Double power in 1 lozenge. Bye-bye sore throat. Take Strepsils.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous, whether you do it for fun or for political gains. Real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
Team huddle.
But we lost.
Don't be tired, guys. This isn't a loss. It's a practice for winning.
Nothing makes a mother prouder than seeing her child growing up. But I know as he learns to lead, he'll face even more dirt, germs, and risk of illness.
That's why in changing seasons, you need strong Dettol protection. Because Dettol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
Why don't you people sell imported materials here? As beautiful as the shop is.
Auntie, buying foreign goods does not help our economy. Neither does it boost local production. And the good thing is Nigerian-made products are high quality. Really? And to make Nigeria great again, that is why I only sell made in Nigeria products. Because change begins with me.
I'm convinced. Change begins with me too.
Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Now, for a background on our topic of discussion, which is on the prospects and challenges of carnivals in Nigeria, let's take this report from correspondent Oyemi Ajayi.
Nigeria is a country with diverse and rich cultural heritage from over 250 ethnic groups and cultural identities. Every year, different parts of the country celebrate and exhibit their cultural endowments, attractions that entertain and excite tourists from within and outside the country. Although there are traditional festivals such as the Eyo Festival, Agungu Fishing Festival, Osun Osogbo Festival, Kano Durban, among numerous others, the country appears to be fast catching up with another form of cultural entertainment, Carnival. This concept, which is synonymous with the Caribbean and South American nations, is now becoming popular across the country, with the Calabar Carnival leading the pack and many states following. Since the inception of the Calabar Carnival in 2004, the concept appears to have been adopted by many states where the culture, tradition and aesthetics of the different ethnic groups around the country have been showcased. Apart from attracting local and international tourists, the carnivals have also proven to be economic avenues where income is generated by host communities and government agencies. However, some have raised concerns over the transmission of culture and costume designs that appear to be alien to the Nigerian culture. In fact, some say the festivals have crossed the line of decency and need to be checked so as to avoid causing problems. Others say the carnivals are not properly organized and expertise need to be built by those saddled with its organization so as to make it more successful. The calendar of the festivals also need to be harmonized so as to maximally harness the economic and tourist potentials. Guests on Good Morning Nigeria shall be examining the concept of carnivals in Nigeria and preferring solutions shortly.
Thank you very much, Oyeyemi Ajayi, for the background report. I'd like to welcome our guests. They're already seated in the studio here, as well as the one joining us via Skype from Calabar. That's Cross River State capital. Okay, ladies first, at least. I'd like to welcome Professor Mabel Eweroma. She is of the Department of Theatre Arts, University of Abuja. Professor Eweroma, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Okay, now let me let the gentleman do the honors for the gentleman. Kingsley?
We also have with us in the studios Comrade Ta Uko. He's the Director General of the National Troupe and Artistic Director. Comrade Ta Uko, pleasure to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you, comrades.
Okay. I'm Kingsley, not a comrade. All right, and joining us via Skype from Calabar is the chairman of the Cross River Carnival Commission. It's Gabe Honor. Gabe Honor, pleasure to have you with us on the program this morning.
Kingsley, good morning, blessing, and good morning, living legend, Tauko.
All right, let's begin by first having a conceptual understanding of carnivals, and therefore, what is the difference or relationship between a carnival and a festival? Let's begin with Tauko.
Well, carnival is a celebration of historic and collective memory of events for any society. You have festivals are the same, it's just nomenclature. A carnival is just a time a society sets for itself for freewheeling. That week or that month is for revelry. That's when they permit certain excesses of society, whether drunks, whatever you do during that period is sanctioned by society. It's a period of let go, anything happens. So long as you don't kill somebody, you just recollect what has happened in the year. And sometimes it's festival period because you finish the harvest. Most societies from primitive times celebrate post-harvest abundance of society, from ancient Greece, ancient Africa, ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia. It's after a fishing festival, or when you return from war and you've conquered your enemies, you show your community that you are valiant men and women, and you celebrate. That period of revelry is what you call carnival.
Professor Eweroma.
Well, historically speaking, carnival, according to its Brazilian origins, came to the fore from about 1723 or 1724, and it was tied to the Easter pageant before Ash Wednesday, and then I think a day before Ash Wednesday was the end of the Carnivale. Carnivale meaning to remove the meat, abstaining from meat. And so that religious origin also connected to some cultural aspects, some, day-to-day aspects of the Brazilian people. And then by differentiating it from festivals, like my colleague just said, you find some communal linkage, some celebratory aspects to festivals, affirming the communal essence of a people, showcasing what they have, and then affirming their day-to-day experiences, and then looking back to history to celebrate achievements of heroes, heroines, and accomplishments that can help to hold the community together. And so between the two, you find something religious that has later become hugely economic and nationalistic. And then you have something very traditional that celebrates and affirms the history, the ways of life of the people, and then extending to how governments and nations have been able to tap into the festival resources of a people to attract tourists and then generate income and revenue.
Thank you very much, Comrade, as well as Professor Eweroma. Let's get to Sir Gabe Honor, who will join us via Skype. Mr. Gabe, Honor, let's find your own definition, the concepts of carnivals as we have received it in Nigeria. Yes, both of the persons in the studio have actually traced the origin back to the different culture where we seem to have borrowed some of this from. Of course, we have our own nature, we have our culture, we have our own norms and values. How have we been able to bring all of this into the concept we have today as carnivals in Nigeria?
Thank you very much, Blessing. Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria. True, I identify with both historical perspectives that have been dropped by Legend Tauko and Professor. We'll go back to even the churches in the olden times when they were preparing for the fast, the Lent period. They had to make do with all they had in terms of the meat they had at home. Since there was no cooling system, they had to waste all of that, by eating it up prior to the Lent period. But coming back to the contemporary period, Carnival is a vision that has been conceived positively to engage our youths, to see how we can strategize, using this platform to change lives, using this platform, looking at the industry behind it, just like what Professor just said now. How do we celebrate our past in the present? How do we celebrate our heroes and our heroines and change lives? And the industry behind Carnival, as we go further, you will discover that what you're seeing there is not just an event, but a process that starts through the period of 11 months. The moment one Carnival finishes, the planning for the next Carnival begins with the conception, with the introduction of the team, and all the elements of theater, as Tauko will let us know later on, are present in this professional theater. A celebrative experience after a hard-working experience. And this is what Carnival Calabar has tapped into in the last 15 to 15 years. Remember, the festival itself started in the millennium year 2000, when the new thinking by the new leaders of Cross River, led by His Excellency Governor Duke, decided to tap into this subsector to change the lives of our boys and girls. And this vision has become a huge commercial success with grave positive socioeconomic impact on the people of Cross River State and Nigeria, not to even think of the socio-cultural platform it has become, as that can allow for social, cultural diplomacy that has achieved better understanding among participants, among viewers, and among tourists, who come first using this as a pull factor and thereafter come back for other things. That is the story of Cross River State.
While we'll take a look at your festival, which of course set the pace 14 years ago. We'll take a look at what other cultural nuances is expected, even as we'll bring on some of these issues in the course of this discussion. Let's get back to you, Comrade Tauko. People expect to see themselves in what is being given in these carnivals, or festivals, as the case may be. You already said the time set already. Most of those carnivals come towards the end of the year when people are expected to, okay, you have time to relax, you expect to showcase different things that will sell that particular community to the outside world. Now, what kind of cultural nuances are expected once we say we're coming up with carnivals to celebrate the people and celebrate the times they're in?
Well, two things. I'll be very critical because the idea of carnival is not to import foreign stereotypes to showcase the beauty of your own culture. One of the worst forms of carnival I've seen in Nigeria is the Abuja Carnival. I'm one of those who has preached and canvassed to scrap it because it's a fiction. You bring people from different states, they come to Eagle Square, away from the 6 municipal area councils of Abuja and the ethnic nationalities, and they dance for 2-3 days, and then they vamoose from Abuja. Who has benefited is the ministries, is the states that have come to showcase like a football match played in a foreign stadium. And everybody goes back home. If you want to celebrate Carnival, it should be a value chain of the cultural industries of those persons. The Baggy people, the Abaji people, the Gwari themselves, the Fulani, the Hausa, the Nyangpa people. All these are the ones that are indigenous communities of the FCT. So if you wanted to have a genuine carnival, You string their cultural practices and celebrate this within a period you choose that is convenient to them in the 6 municipal area councils. So the money goes back to the people. That's the value chain. Who sells mama put during Carnival? It should be the woman in Buari, in Gwagwalada, in Kuje, in Abaji, in Amak here, Abuja itself. So I think the best form of Carnival I think we should help to keep developing is the NAFES. NAFES is the perfect carnival for Nigeria because you are celebrating the cultural, I would say, cornucopia of Nigerians. And you take it around each state celebrating this. Well, that's the traditional carnival. The contemporary carnival in itself, my critique is Calabar has tried a bit, but I'm sorry to disappoint Calabar in my historical understanding and sociology of entertainment. Some people, I am not accusing Calabar authorities, they go to the Caribbean and borrow rags of costumes used in Bahia, in Brazilian Carnival, in Trinidad and Tobago, and come and put angelic wings on our children and parade them round and say this is Carnival. What has that got to do with the history of the people? I schooled in Europe. I used to be part of the London Carnival as a student. The Nice Carnival, the Milan Carnival, the Torino Carnival, the Paris Carnival, the Venice Carnival is their history. Here we are imitating what we think the Oibo man thinks of us. So the Caribbeans are celebrating their African history. My West Indian friends, the Notting Hill Carnival is to celebrate their Igbo origins, Yoruba origins. And so why should I now go and be imitating them when I'm the real Igbo, when I'm the real Yoruba? And so there's a misconception because the organizers just think of commoditization. The music, for instance, that is cooked, they take music from Nigerian artists and play there. That is piracy. They are eating the intellectual property of Nigerian artists. They are not creating anything new. In Brazil, the samba schools create their music. They take their themes. Come home, my people, the Tiv Kwahi. The Tiv Kwahi is one of the greatest carnivals on earth. They dance and celebrate for 7 days. They go to the forest enclave, put a large bonfire, and create animal characters and their history. They come in and go. You can now criticize society. During Kwahi, you know who is a crook. You know who is a bad leader. You know who has gone to somebody's wife. You know who has run away with somebody's daughter. So the society regenerates. It reaffirms its solidarity and its critique, its ideological self, what you call the ontologicalness of we. Tiwani, Awani, we are Igbo, we are Yoruba, we are Tiv. That is Carnival. You recreate yourself. Anyone coming from Europe, that's what they want to see. Not our children wearing strips of cloth and they go hoyo, and I think we should discourage that. While it's good to be contemporary within your history. Otherwise, the pseudo-cultures of the West will kill the stories of our own origins.
All right, Comrade Tauko, thank you very much. Let's bring in now Professor Ewerema. Professor Ewerema, what's your perspective on the color and character of carnivals that we have in Nigeria so far?
To some extent, I agree with the comrade, but I do not believe that the Abuja Carnival should be scrapped. And then secondly, I would want us to think of the advantages and then see how some of the disadvantages critics have seen over the years could be addressed in order to mitigate what we see as infringements on our culture. Recall also that whenever you have these showcase of cultural ensemble, you see that fusion between fancy, fantasy, culture, the economics, the politics of a people. And then the incremental or the multiplier effect he talked about in terms of what is generated via income, what is generated via destination satisfaction, or even the income that is left behind should be seen as areas the carnival organizers could look into. In terms of color, we have traditional color, but the general color in, contemporary perspective, to me, is more foreign than local, in view of the infusion of, Euro-American aesthetics into our carnival experience or industry in Nigeria. Therefore, my submission is that the locally generated festivals and carnivals, like the Igwe Festival, that existed eons of time ago before the coming of the Europeans, or the Argungu Fishing Festival, that had more local content than imported elements, should be sustained. One major color that I would want to see is the meeting point between carnival organization and the economic growth and recovery plan. One, grow the economy, grow local industries. Two, invest in the people. Who are those involved? The artists, the volunteers, the organizers, the cab driver, the hoteliers, the restaurateurs, and other, service providers within the community or within the state at large. And then global competitiveness. Can we compete? Like I always ask my students in class, when you stand before a Caucasian, who is going to be seen as the authentic individual in terms of color, in terms of dressing, in terms of language, in terms of aesthetics, in terms of the generality of the existence of the individual or the group of individuals? And that makes me to agree with Comrade that we have a lot of local content. We have several artisans, several manufacturers from our traditional and cultural perspectives that are yet to be, sucked into the carnival industry. Dressmakers, tailors, carpenters, even mechanics, ICT experts who can, form images, phantasma that the people can identify with, that can enable them to affirm their local or national identities. And so for me, color would mean looking back like the, Ghanaian bird, and then assessing what we have been able to put up and see if, for crying out loud, the 2019 carnival experiences, Carnival, the boat regatta in Patigi, the Argungu Fishing Festival, would, and so many others, would be able to, exhale and bring out what we can call our own.
All right, Professor Werema, thank you very much. Let's pause you here and return to Gabe Bonner, who is still with us via Skype from Calabar. Gabe Bonner, you've listened to both Ta Uko and Professor Werema give their own, if you like, initial assessment of the ongoing, of the carnivals that we have in Nigeria from different perspectives. You are, of course, involved with the Calabar Carnival. What's your reaction to their assessment?
Thank you very much, Kingsley. I have led discussions on the fact that Carnival is not foreign to Africa. This brings us back to the transatlantic slave trade and the movement of people from here to the so-called New World. The white man dances in the ballroom. The black man dances in the playground, in the village square. People who were taken to the New World, all strata of the community was involved. The princes were taken away, the poor was taken away. So they went there and ensured that they maintained their culture. What we've simply done here is now to see how we can bring back the framework, the successful framework. But we have not undermined our culture in any way. We have tried to insist that the cultural content of Africa, of our people, is sustained using the framework right from there. Because true, like Tauko just said, carnivals of the world, international carnivals have been quite successful. And why this? The value chain. The entire community is involved. The tourist dollar begins to speak the moment he or she arrives the seaport, the airport, or the car park. And this is what we are trying to do here. The GDP of Cross River State today, or if you want to look at it from the cultural point of view, looking at Nigeria differently, after Nollywood is Carnival Calabar. But again, processional theater, which Carnivals is usually part of, has stood our own. We have been conscious, even in our teams. We play teams that are not just for the sake of it, but has to do with the currency. We just played Africanism. Why Africanism? From pessimism to optimism. We must begin to change our story and tell our story. But let's not forget what is behind all this, the industry, the business, you know. And our carnival stands out because the choreography you see here is not seen anywhere. And of course, Tauko just mentioned about our musical content. Ours, which has become so contemporary, caters for the entire strata. What we need to do, like Professor just said now, is to see how we can tweak it for the future. A project of this nature that has survived 14 years, you can imagine what has become people who have made livelihood out of this sector. We need to get to the drawing board. We need to put all hands on deck. And the community, as Tauko just said now, must be involved. Our luck here is that ours has been bottoms up. It is the conscience of the people. The community is highly involved. They look forward to it, you know, because the pure water seller, the mama put seller, the hoteliers, by the time I get into the discussions on the growth pole of the tourism sector, how many hotel rooms have grown since 2004 to present? What the magnitude of tourism, you know, using this Carnival product as the platform to attract people to Cross River State. I agree that the national festival has been wonderful, especially has been recently driven by Otumba Roshenwa. The national festival is one that if we cooperate back to back, it becomes one of those wonderful need to bring our people under one umbrella. And this is what Cross River State has done. We are geographically in the Niger Delta, but you can use teaspoon to take our oil. We had to fall back on our culture, using it as the palm oil with which our tourism will be eaten. And this has worked for us. Yes, we are quite keen on ensuring that our people appreciate the dangers that come with it. You cannot have an omelette without breaking an egg. But we have been quite lucky out here. We are laid back. It doesn't sound good for business, but it's good for tourism. If you're welcoming, if you're warm, if you can give your visitors the best, they will keep coming. These are my thoughts.
With you, Mr. Ona, for letter of that signal. And we know tourism is multifaceted, and you've already talked about how it's percolating to the people down there, the locals, food vendors, hoteliers, and all the likes. But we're still bothered, not because we know things cannot change, the decency to some of the outfits and to some other areas, having them localized, actually. There are beautiful clothes. Comrade here is having the thief and gay. The thief and gay. And I'm sure we want to see something like that from maybe participants or people who love to see Benway ornaments and some other kind of clothing being displayed. The same thing, I'm sure there are some traditional clothes from Calabar or even Efik, Ibibio being on display. And actually see that, okay, this is the rich cultural value we're trying to project, the African perspective. You have already described your carnival as the biggest street party. Let's see what costumes that you're bringing to this party in some of these areas. So how do we begin to tidy up on all of this and still projecting that which you've been doing for 14 years differently?
Thank you, Blessing. We've been deliberate because we have a dedicated day to the cultural carnival, and of all the banks among all the registered banks.
Well, sorry, Mr. Ona, the signal is being challenged there, but we'll get back to you as soon as it's restored. Let's get back to us in the studio. Professor, let's get back to you. Art, of course, mirrors life. How much of this mirror or the reflection is being given in terms of economic value to some of those areas of concern that we've raised, as well as all the areas that the theatre should actually teach us? Because, one, this is theatre in process.
Yeah, it is a street party, as he has said, and I support his view that the Africans have public spectacle rather than have an enclosed space within which to perform life or perform arts and culture. The reflection that we have seen so far has not been, fully tapped. I consider what we've experienced so far within the Calabar experience and then the Lagos, Port Harcourt and other minuscular experiences to be, reflective of some parts of the national culture and not the total, expansive Nigerian reflection you would want to see. And that would mean that we should look out for that postcard experience, that a snapshot from Calabar or Lagos or Port Harcourt, Argungu, Igwe, or from any other part of Nigeria could be showcased, and you won't wonder if you were seeing a postcard from Brazil or from, any other Euro-American or Asian cultural, sphere. Talking about the economics, I think the time has come for us to decide whether the carnival should be a government-owned enterprise or one that would be further expanded almost to seamless proportions where you have full private participation, full local indigenous participation as you used to have in some festivals until the quest for sponsorship, the crave for partnership, or even that longing for foreign exposure or attendance or patronage to affirm what we hold dear to be our own. Like many researchers have said, if you're good in your cultural spectacle, the tourists would come. And as our participant via Skype just said, if you're good to your visitor, that is destination satisfaction, when they visit your destination and the hosting community is good to the visitors, of course they would always come back. However, talking economically, like I mentioned briefly earlier on, we need to determine via data, because this lack of, accurate data is also a factor militating against carnival organization. How much came in? How many tourists came in? When we had the Abuja Festival, during the boat regatta at Jabi Lake, how many, diplomatic, officials were present? Did we have incidents that led to, criminality or deviance? How much did this cost economically? And so, what is left to spend by those who render services to me is what pertains to economic growth and development of the local community. Right. With carnivals, you still experience capital flights.
Yeah, Professor Werema, let's pause you in the meantime, because we know that you want to fire on with the economics of carnivals. We have another guest who is joining us at this time. He's Chikezie Oswago. Chikezie Oswago is a travel and tourism researcher at the University of Pretoria in South Africa. Chikezie, a pleasure to have you with us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good morning,
Obviously,
viewers.
yeah, we are discussing the prospects and challenges of carnivals in Nigeria, which is a critical adjunct of the tourism industry. From your research into travels and tourism, what is your assessment of the type and quality of carnivals that we have in Nigeria?
Well, we have to start somewhere. The first known carnival in Nigeria was organized during the Frank Wo era, during Obasanjo administration. And that's, at a national level, that showcased a lot of cultural aspects of Nigeria. So it was a showcase of cultural tourism, the Abuja Carnival. It really portrayed what we have to display to the world about our culture. And a lot of things that were done within that period really were akin to our culture. We had very few displays that you could confuse with what comes from the Caribbeans. Yes, the street parades and things like that happened, but most of the costumes were done in Nigerian attires, materials, fabrics, and even some of the embellishments of people had pure Nigerian input because that was strictly requested by the 28 state contestants. Now, other carnivals, apart from Calabar Carnival that has become a very large street party and has become very prominent, other carnivals also showcase some of our cultural aspects. But what happens at Calabar Carnival still gives us a feeling that we are having the same thing that they're having in Rio, they're having in some other places in the Caribbean. Just like Prof said, we need to de-emphasize on those ones and then promote ours. I would say we are yet to achieve the 100% or even 70% Nigerian content that we desire in such a situation whereby somebody can take a postcard, like Prof said, and showcase it anywhere in the world, and we know that this is purely a Nigerian carnival.
Well, Oswago, Chikezi Oswago, thank you very much. Let's get something maybe clear here. It's a carnival necessarily a terrestrial event. I'm wondering, in the 1960s and up to the 70s, before increased oil exploration activities polluted the waters in the Niger Delta, the boat regatta was a common feature. Professor Werema, of course, you are from that location, the Bomadi, all the waters in the Niger Delta. You had, and then you have to decorate those boats. And the refinery and the costumes that you saw, this was, if you like, a carnival on water. Taoko.
Well, again, that's my critique. My darling sister, Prof. We are agreeing in some place, but I'm still using Abuja Carnival as the worst expression of pseudo-carnivals in Nigeria. If you want, what is baggy culture? If I'm here in Abuja visiting Nigeria in the FCT, I would like to know the ethnic nationalities that occupy this space as indigenous communities. My worry is that from the economic recovery and growth plan of Nigeria, we are not progressing towards economic self-sufficiency of communities internally if we do not exploit the materials we have locally within us. The Samba schools, before they accept foreign costumes into their Samba schools in Brazil and Bahia, they have a theme. If it's about drug addiction for that year, all Samba schools prepare their themes alongside working with the government, with the police, on crime, on this. So characters are built like that. Exactly like the thief do in Kwahi. So, you see, those methodologies that are external to us have a very clear aspect of commercialization that they use. If Americans shoot film and you see New York Police Department, they contribute to providing logistics for the filmmakers in that perspective. So there's a symbiosis between aesthetics and hard economics. In Nigeria, when you see models wear bikini in Brazil, it's big companies that market and get models to wear those bikinis because after the carnival, they are going to sell millions of dollars. We don't do that in Nigeria. So what we do is we go buy second-hand clothing from some local market, give our ladies to put tights in Calabar. That is a tropical area, and they are sweating in it in acrylic and nylon costumes and saying this is Carnival. I'm saying no. You don't start from a false premise and get new results. What we should do to increase the participation of all aspects, why can't we have a Durbar dance on the street with our horses? You can recreate it in dramaturgy. Why do you need boats on the streets? Before you do, you have the Igunuwari dance, the crayfish dance, for instance. The people, the Izon people, the Kalabari, from the riverside, riverine areas of Nigeria, they have these beautiful costumes on the sea. Through choreography, you can recreate that. I think my own passion is to make the national troupe go back to land, develop and discover these old forms of aesthetics that we can put as body of dances and groom artists to participate in a symbiotic sense, interagency cooperation. The national troupe, the National Orientation Agency, all these bodies can work together, the NCAC, to produce a synergy of what becomes a Nigerian character. Whatever name you call it, whether festivals or carnival, it's up to you.
All right, Tauko, thanks. Let's return to Gabe Bonner via Skype in Calabar. Gabe, again, I'm sure you've listened to, you heard what the other guests were saying, but since the Calabar Carnival is, shall we say, without meaning disrespect to the other carnivals, is not the flagship carnival in the country, give us a sense of your calendar of activities for the carnivals, and in particular, where the local content pops up.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. Truly, we are easily the template for assessing cultural festivals or its organization in all of Nigeria today, and I'm humble enough to admit this. And starting from the Power Week, which is 26th December, we have the cultural parade. We have the entire 18 local government, the city of Calabar, and about 25 states. We identify special presentations by special cultural groups across the 36 states of the Federation, and now screen them. You know, they come and perform with the host communities, the Igbo community, the Yoruba community, the Hausa community, the Benue State community in Cross River State. They all take on the 6 kilometers carnival route for that day to showcase the different cultural presentations that come from this community. On the 27th, for example, we look at that unique group of people who have expendable income, the bikers. They come with their own. We are targeting their naira and their dollars. They take over the entire city. You know, the hotels are booked full, you know, and they spend so much on the community. We also have introduced Miss Africa Pageant. This young lady becomes the spokesperson for our tourism, you know, and our culture. And we are looking for a true African woman. You know, the way the African woman looks, she must be curvy, she must be intelligent, she must be emotional, she must be caring, you know, in tandem with our wonderful host ethnic culture. If you remember the fattening room that grows up a well-rounded woman who has been groomed to manage a home successfully. Then, of course, 28th is the Carnival Calabar itself that sees about 50 regulars. Today we have the cottage industry, the garment factory that produces these fabrics Again, we've insisted on the need to inculcate and introduce our raffia, and most of our band leaders who themselves are great community leaders have visited cities like Bauchi to identify those special, unique, stuff that we could use to intermarry. And our friends in Benin too have done very well in terms of arts and crafts. Then we recently introduced the International Carnival that have seen over 30 nations come to join hands with us, for the International Carnival. What we are trying to do here now is to see how we can use this as a true platform for cultural diplomacy, apart from the business, the value chain. And again, our intention is that because we are blessed with an oversupply of tourism sites, but sites can only become destination after value addition, after what man has put. And this is what we have done here, using world standards and world framework, with the Tourism Bureau that is in charge of marketing and standards, with a Carnival Commission that is well established, a full-fledged commission, with the Ministry of Tourism, that has been in existence for nearly 18 years, and of course, working with the stakeholders, the NATOP, the EFTA. Chike out there has been with us since Miss Africa, and we are working just like the professor just said now. Until the private sector takes on this sector, we are not there. We intend that the private sector, not too long from now, must begin to come forward, and give in their all, because it is when the private sector takes it over that it is sustained. It is when the private sector takes it over that it is protected. It is when the private sector takes it over that government can now concentrate on providing the enabling environment, which is basically security, information, and generic protection of the product. But all responsible governments worldwide will not see a sector like this and be shy from giving it a cover, because there's no price to pay for peace. When you engage the active youth community, when you put jobs in their hands and put monies in their hands, there's an unofficial truce between the bad boys and the security agency. Everybody is looking forward to this great coming together and this great renaissance. I said earlier that we have been deliberating the kind of teams we play. 2015, coming closely, we played climate change. The following year, His Excellency the Governor, who is the executive producer of Carnival Calabar, as it were now, they have decided to repeat climate change again, because they said the issues of climate change are still very strong with us, still much with us. Now, the third year, he played migration. You can imagine for intellectual gurus, the effect of climate change on migration. Then last year, 2018, we played Africanism, bringing it back home, that we must do our own. We must hold our own. But I agree, generally speaking, that we need to sit back and be deliberate on the content and our culture. And this is what we've set out to do. We have used successful frameworks. We have used using systems as benchmarks that have worked. We are also conscious that we need to get it right, so that this can outlive us and government can sit back. We have done well in terms of sponsorship in the past, but sponsors are clearly becoming sponsorship shy because of the situation in the economy. But if they also know that there's so much to benefit here, the opportunities to display goods and services along the Carnival route cannot be undermined. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Gable. Now we'll get back to you because of the discussion. But right now we're going on a break. When we return, just as indicated on the screen, we're taking a look at Nigerian Carnival's prospects as well as the challenges. Now, what goes into making of a carnival like that of Calabar Carnival, just as the same elsewhere? What are the challenges in actually making people put their mouth or their money where their mouth is? All this we'll be finding out once we are done with the break. Right back.
brought us as usual.
As usual. You have no problem.
For the three put
You are welcome, sir.
as usual, yeah? I was.
You take that one. You take that one. You don't understand? We want Nigerian homegrown rice. Finish. You don't have? You don't have?
Join the rice revolution today.
No other rice that tastes like Nigerian rice. Are you sorry? That's the Nigerian rice we are talking about. Chocolate made in Nigerian rice. Healthy food. I'm going to bring Mrs. Mobu to come to chocolate rice of made in Nigeria here. And see how it are made.
Correct.
And how they are cook it.
Correct.
Homegrown rice are good for your health. It boosts our economy and give employment to our people.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Nigerians. Suicide bombers are not spirits. They are not ghosts. They are human beings like you and me. They live amongst us. They are your neighbors. They are your friends today, but terrorists tomorrow. So you must know your neighbor now. Security begins with you and me. Know your neighbor. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me.
If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We have some tweets that have come in. Let's quickly go through those tweets and then return to our guest. Dele Jack Solomon. On the socio-economic level, the Carnival generates business opportunities for singers, songwriters, choreographers, costume builders, and designers, makeup artists, and musicians. Carnival has driven the growth and development of micro, small, and other skill-based services.
From Low Alpha Seas, this tweet says, patronizing our huge cultural heritage will be made possible and realistic if there is a synergy between the government of the day and the people. Rich cultural background is a veritable tool for economic emancipation via tourism and jobs creation laced in entertainment. The Calabar Annual Carnival has metamorphosed into a huge tourist attraction acknowledged internationally with many attendant benefits.
And this is coming from Habib Abiodun. Now, a carnival is a way of generating revenue, if only some basic things can be put in place. 1, proper planning. 2, security. 3, proper sanitation of the host community.
Sensitization.
It's saying sensitization or sanitation. Proper sensitization.
Sensitization, I guess.
I take that again. That's Carnival is a way of generating revenue, if only some basic things can be put in place. 1, proper planning. 2, security. 3, proper sensitization of the host community. 4, the program of events should be able to attract persons from abroad, plus investors.
Okay, Dele Jack Solomon tweets, it is without doubt that Carnival is an important social and cultural event which continues to gain regional and indeed international significance. What is often overlooked by policymakers is that the economic significance of Carnival to local economies and businesses. In the Nigerian context, this recognition is needed in order that this valuable as well as unique facet of the region's culture can reach its full potential to the development of our dear country and to the betterment of our people.
Abraham Chejule tweets, now, if every state in Nigeria were to organize its carnival, not only would it improve our economy, but it would also preserve our cultures. So those are the tweets that we have in the meantime. Professor Ewereba, I just wanted to find out, from your assessment of, shall we say, the Nigeria's carnival calendar and the activities that would go in there, are we having a holistic approach, or organizers and promoters are operating in silos and making it episodic without realizing that it's a full year activity with a full range of values along the process?
In response to that question, I would say that it's not yet holistic. I believe we could have a linear form of organization and participation so that after the Calabar Carnival, we may have a break and then have maybe the Carnival or the Lagos Carnival, so that once they come together, perhaps during the National Council of Culture meeting, the organizers could be sensitized to avoid planting periods, to avoid school periods, in such a way that during vacation, school pupils, and by this I mean those within the middle school or basic education stage, should be able to learn about the cultural heritage, the histrionics, theatrical performances of Nigeria, of pan-Nigeria, across the Nigerian state. Secondly, during religious festivals, we may have carnivals that are linked to such festivals. For example, I know that the Durbar is usually celebrated when dignitaries visit or after the Salah feast celebration. And so, if in Kaduna, for example, or Zaria or Mina, you have Durbar activities linked towards their feast celebrations, it is possible to attract tourists. And then with fishing, which has to do with an aquatic, culture of a people, or the boat regatta, I think it should be when there is less threat to life, when rivers have not overflown their banks, and you can have adequate security and, cultivation of local interest and impact made upon the economic and social life of the community. All right. Therefore, calendar-wise, it should be organized. It should be done in such a way that sponsors, patrons, investors, participants, and attendees can benefit optimally.
All right, Professor, thank you very much. Let's get back to Mr. Oswago there. Of course, as a researcher, I'm sure so much is being given in terms of data for you to actually work on. How much of that we have in terms of Nigerian carnivals, I don't know if you may be able to tell us. Because this will also bring about what will bring interest either to the younger population, whom will want to actually pass this custom and values through, at least in subsequent years, without necessarily losing touch with the reality on the ground. How much of this have you been able to see in some of the carnivals that we're exhibiting, or at least we're trying to project before the world? Like I said earlier, tourism is multifaceted, and we need to tap into this to bring about the economics. What challenges do you see on the other side as well in getting this across?
Thank you. One major problem we have in Nigeria is putting down statistics, or even the method of collection of statistics, of figures, things that we do, things we should do, and then even what to do with these statistics. Sometimes you collect these figures or statistics, they are dumped somewhere, or the method of collection is faulty, and then you cannot achieve results. Meanwhile, statistics are basically those things you need to plan and project. When we did the Abuja Carnival, the first national carnival, we had quite a lot of participation from states, but it was not a revenue earner. So, in as much as we had the number of people, we knew the number of states that participated and their troops, and then could count their whatever they spent and how much was given to them. There was no way to calculate how many people attended from within. We had an idea of the people that participated from outside Nigeria because particularly using the color of skin or asking questions, and then some hotels that could give information, but it wasn't holistic. And up till last year, the carnival started dwindling. Due to sponsorships, there became donor apathy, sponsorship apathy. People did not see exactly what they would benefit from all these things. That's why we need statistics in some of these places. Talking about some other states that have carnivals, let me not talk about Cross River. My state has a carnival that came up just before the Christmas period. We could not really ascertain how many people came. It was said that so many people came, millions of people came, but what millions, what numbers? Hotels had people who booked within that period. Did they come for carnivals? Were they coming for some other events? Did they come for some other events and then saw the carnival and participated? These are the things we need to put together in statistics. Subsequently, I would suggest that organizers of carnival in Nigeria should adopt some of the things that are done elsewhere. In as much as we are trying to Nigerianize these carnivals based on what we are talking about now, making it our own. Carnivals have gone through metamorphosis. The way it was from the origins, the pagan festival from Egypt and then Alexandria and all the other, it has become something different. When it got to Caribbeans, the Africans in Caribbeans now added some of the things they needed to add, and it became a different thing altogether. Now, coming to Nigeria, we need to have our own Nigerian carnival. And then we need to put together statistics so that anybody from anywhere can say, if I'm going to invest in this carnival, this is what I'm going to get.
All right, Chikezio Swago, thank you very much. Let's return to Gabe Honor via Skype from Calabar. Well, we understand that there are challenges with the Skype, but I think it's important. Well, if he can hear us as we are speaking, what is the level of involvement, for instance, of the state Calabar, that's the Cross River State Planning Commission? And therefore, who are the data collectors? To what extent is the National Bureau of Statistics involved in gathering some of the basic data with regard to the carnival in Calabar? And that is, of course, been the flagship carnival that we're having in Nigeria today. But in the absence of a response from Gabon in Calabar, let's return to Taoko. Taoko, in terms of just conceiving of these carnivals and knowing what to do and how to get it right and getting the proper metrics, with regard to the numbers and ensuring that there is derivable benefit from the value chain, where do you think we need to have a break-in?
First, there's a community. I don't want to mystify myself with this carnival nomenclature. It becomes too restrictive. Carnival, whatever name we call it, is a festival that involves a collection of people celebrating whatever it is. So you have the aesthetic form of enjoyment, merrymaking. Then who enjoys? Who makes merry? The visitor who comes looking at this exotica, this freshness, distinct from the other person, that's the tourist. So you have the touristic aspect of it, which involves all the other gamut of security, moving from place to place, logistics, good roads, hospitals. If I'm asthmatic or have heart problems, I come from Europe, for instance. I want to know which hospital I can get to first. Flight attendants, flight ticketing, so that you rush back to your area of arrival when you have finished that carnival or that festival. So I think one is the organizational imprimatur. We don't have the structure thinking of carnival as business. Most of the states where it's the fancy of the ruling administration, and they just say, let's do carnival. And then they put children on the street wearing colorful rags, and they say, that's carnival. Now, we must stop that nonsense. We must get the people to sit down and say, you like Abuja. Let me use Abuja again. My sister doesn't agree with me too much in this, but how many area councils do you have in Abuja? Good. The 6 area councils set up a committee. I have suggested this before. Let the minister of the FCT sit with the administrators of the 6 local communities and say, give us a festival. Let's call it Carnival or whatever. So you look at the specific items of what the people want, what they celebrate. Choose a time that is convenient to all areas, and government can help subvent and subsidize. Then you look for businesses to engage in corporate social responsibility. The government must compel businesses that invest in that terrain and extract surplus from that community to put back something. It creates jobs for the youths, reduces restiveness and stress. And when people come, there is the less tendency to want to steal from tourists because you are benefiting. If your mama is frying akara or groundnut or yam, whatever it is, you know that if there's peace and there's the route that passes through your street, you will sell water carriers and the rest. So I think the economics of it is important, that they look at it as business. Because it doesn't start as business, it starts as let's share money. So when they share this money, the business comes secondary. So there is no statistics. For instance, INEC can be involved in Carnival. How? You now look for people who will create the theatrical forms of telling people how to vote during elections, how to avoid rigging, how to say no to violence. You don't wait for Carnival time to do that. Interagency cooperation, say within the ministry. If it's agriculture, what are the things that the government wants to push at that moment as part of policy formulation? You put this into Carnival themes. So it is this symbiosis, this intricacy of government, private sector, and communities that is missing. But like I say, it's the ideology that informs what you want to do. If your own is just to chop money, why do you care about statistics? But if you want to plan it as business in a capitalist enterprise, then it's got to be business. If you want me to put my millions, like Blessing says, put your money where your mouth is, I got to know what I'm getting out.
All right, Tanko, thank you very much. Professor Eweramal, again, we return to you dealing with the economics and the challenges of proper organization and mainstreaming carnival culture into the business community.
That has been done to some extent, but
how effective?
It remains undertapped and not fully effective yet. I want to disagree to some extent that what we've seen so far is sharing of money. I do know that we've had some level of participation that has generated consciousness raising among the people in terms of, promoting a cultural awareness that has made some young men and women to start to look inwards and have faith in the visual aesthetics, the verbal, communicative aspects of our culture and several other aspects. Multi-sectoral cooperation amongst ministries, departments, and agencies have existed to some extent also, because I know that during carnivals and even some festivals, some government agencies do share information leaflets about their organizations, not generally the 18 or the 17 that you have within the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture. For example, there have been, campaigns against trafficking, campaigns for security during the Abuja Festival, and even a sensitization of the people on the need to buy local goods, the need to, appreciate and patronize local goods and merchandise. What I want to say, furthermore, is that the government needs to be, affirmative in terms of what it actually wants to do. Do you want a fusion of the foreign and the local, or you want to benefit the locals. If we look at this studio, for example, I may wager that this table was not fabricated having our cultural consciousness in mind. Where are our carvers? Where are our upholstery makers? Where are our carpenters when we have to showcase our aesthetics to the world via the mass media, even via government agencies?
I think, Professor Ewerema, thanks. I think the issue really, perhaps, assuming there's any disagreement between yourself and Uko, the real issue has to do with the role of government in creating the enablers for private sector investment to make Carnival a recurrent feature in our social calendar on the one hand, and then create the right benefits along the value chain with the concomitant benefits, ultimately, if you like, to the country's gross domestic product.
One way of doing that is to perhaps provide tax holiday to companies that would sponsor youth attendees at any cultural event. Give stubs or tickets that can also, extend the value chain and tell us how many people attended or viewed the carnival spectacle. We also have rebates that could be provided to those who would costume perhaps 500 dancers, maybe a textile company in Kaduna or in Lagos or Asaba could be given some form of rebate if they provide local textiles that artists would don during the street parade.
Yes, and so much of local content involvement.
Yes.
I know, we have some tweets again, and we'll quickly run through them, Kingsley.
Yes, that's Chris Simeon. It says, Carnivals create tourist attraction centers in which diverse cultural values and heritage are showcased.
From Festus Akimboyewa is this tweet: Carnivals can unite people and communities and also bring them together in celebration, as we've seen in Calabar Carnival. Government at all levels should consider investment in Carnival importance if they must benefit from the abundance of economic as well as social gains in carnivals.
Shakiru Raufu says the Calabar Carnival is motivated by right-thinking people. Each political region should have its own interest of bringing its people together. This is the right type of restructuring that brings peace.
Suleiman Yahya says, for any carnival to contribute to national development, it must have a good cultural content that cannot be seen anywhere, which will attract tourists. It is also important that we have only one carnival because most of the high-rated carnivals are won in that country.
Now, this is from Twitter handle Tolly MSA2. I think carnivals, especially the highly publicized ones, have not done justice to our national rebirth. I want to see the real indigenous identity showpiece, where the local music, the drums, gongs, etc. go on parade. We cannot be competitive if we continue to copy others. Well, that sounded like Tauko there. Thank you very much. Well, that's on that note, we'd like to thank all our guests. If we haven't lost Gabe Bonner via Skype, he's the chairman of the Cross River Carnival Commission. He's been with us via Skype. You are back again. Maybe just your visuals that we are seeing. Well, thank you very much. But if the audio is clear, I wanted you to speak to your metrics. It's your State Planning Commission involved in gathering data. Is the National Bureau of Statistics also involved in gathering data with regard to various aspects of the Calabar Carnival? And then using such data for planning and also for as an encourager to would-be sponsors of the Carnival.
Yes, very much, Kingsley. I give kudos to His Excellency Governor Duke, who right from 2003 saw the need for us to develop.
I'm sorry. Well, kudos to you too, Gabe Bonner, for being part of our conversation this morning. We also would like to thank Chikezie Oswago, a travel and tourism researcher at the University of Pretoria in South Africa. Thanks a lot for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you.
Appreciation to Professor Mabel Ewerema of the Department of Theatre Arts, University of Abuja.
Thank you.
Thanks
And the
a lot.
Director, Diaspora Center. I forgot to mention that.
Diaspora. Where is that one?
Just established at the university.
Oh, just established at the university. Congratulations, too.
Thank you.
So that we have some diaspora influence in the Carnival coming going forward.
You will
Thank you very
have
much,
it.
Professor Ewerema. Also, Comrade Ta Uko, who is Director General of National Troupe and Artistic Director. Thanks a lot for being part of our discussion this morning.
Thank you.
All right, let's go over to our sports desk and get some highlights.